Good morning to everyone. I'd like to welcome our special guests who are here today. Hank Greenberg on my far right, who's representing the New York State Bar Association, who is no stranger to this room or this office, but congratulations on being the president of the Bar Association, and it's very important to have the Bar Association speak to these important issues. Rhys Levine, who has done great work with Resolve on fertility issues that more and more women battle with every day, and she's been a tremendous advocate, and I want to thank her for being here. Andy Cohen, who is a surrogacy advocate, he's here doing two things. First, he is here to advocate on the surrogacy issue. Second, he is a acclaimed director, producer on the Bravo Network, has done other shows. He's considering now a reality show based on Albany and the goings-ons of the New York State Legislature, where he would moderate a discussion with the Assembly on one side, the Senate on the other side.
I can do this. I got this.
Tears, yelling, fist fights, it would be great. To my left, Melissa DeRosa, who is the secretary to the governor and is doing a great job, and Alfonso David, our counselor. Let me say this as a matter of opening, and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Cohen. We talk about New York State as the progressive capital, and we do progressive things, and Democrats now talk about themselves as progressives. We're down to the final days of the legislative session, and we will prove to either be the progressives that we talk about in the progressive capital of the nation or not. What does it mean to be a progressive? It's a word everybody uses, everybody calls themselves progressive. But I think it's worth taking a moment to actually consider what that means. Progressive means you are concerned with social justice issues and equality and human dignity issues, equality between men and women, righting wrongs of the past. That's what a progressive believes. To be a progressive, I believe you actually have to make progress. I don't believe in the academic concept of being a progressive. I'm a progressive, I believe in progressive things, but I don't get anything done. That's one of the failings of government and of Democrats and of progressive government. Great rhetoric, but nothing changed. And people need change in their lives. They need evidence, they need results, even if it's not perfect, you know. The perfect should not be the enemy of the good. Accomplish what you can, right? Martin Luther King. It's a journey, the moral arc of the universe. What does it mean to be the progressive capital of the nation? It means when the nation is in a period of intolerance and so many people are preaching anger and hatred and division. The progressive capital even more seeks to speak to and act on inclusion and acceptance and equality. And there is no doubt that in this nation, it is one of the most divisive periods that I can remember in my lifetime. And that goes back further than I would care to remember. And I think it's even more important that New York State acts in a way that furthers tolerance and understanding and love. There are several issues that we're going to be contemplating in these last few days. We have a women's rights agenda. How the legislature doesn't pass an ERA for women, Equal Rights Amendment, I have no idea. You have a president who is disrespecting women all across the nation, and now is the time for New York State to finally pass the ERA. We have a tremendous need to remedy the statute of limitations for rape that only gives a woman 5 years on rape in the second and the third degree to bring a case. Why? Makes no sense. We have no real pay equity law that's effective in the state of New York. We talk about equality between men and women. Women still make 88 cents to a man's dollar. How can you not pass a pay equity law? And then the issues that we have today, which are essential to the LGBTQ community. And they have a special priority for me because no state has proven how wrong the LGBTQ community was more than this state. No state has shown the discrimination that has been done and the unfairness that has been done to the LGBTQ community more than this state. We passed marriage equality, the first large state, and I said in this room that it was discriminatory and violative of the law. Put aside ethics and morality and compassion. It was violative of the law not to allow LGBTQ couples to marry. Several years later, the Supreme Court of the United States said, you know what, it's against the law, right? And that's what it means to lead, and we have always led. And there are two issues that are repugnant to our leadership and our history and our ethos as the state of New York. Marriage equality says equality, and it says for LGBTQ couples, you don't have to decide between your sexual preference and having a family. You should have never had to make that decision. Marry and have a family and give birth and give life and share love. That's what marriage equality is all about. For an LGBTQ couple to have a child, obviously, you need assistance. And luckily, medical technology has advanced to a point where it is possible. And medical technology has raised all sorts of new legal issues, right? You can now transplant organs. You can do all sorts of things. For a female couple to have a child, they need a male donor. For a male couple, they need a surrogate. 47 states allow surrogacy. 47 states allow surrogacy. 47 states allow surrogacy. Did I say 47 states allow surrogacy?
Say it again.
How can New York State be one of the 3 that doesn't allow surrogacy? It is repugnant to everything we believe and everything we are. And give me the possible rationale. You have either an LGBTQ couple or you have an infertile woman, infertile couple who can't make a child and want to bring a child into this world. They want to have a family. They want to share that love. They want to love another individual. Why wouldn't you let them do it? Why wouldn't you help them do it? What possible rationale would say, no, we have the technology. We have people who want to help. I've met women who say, you know what, I would love to bring a child into this world for a loving couple. Why wouldn't you allow it? And that's the intelligence of 47 states. What's the argument against it? Well, women would be exploited. Why? We have a law that gives women more protection, information, counseling, legal representation than any state in the nation. If you actually cared about women being exploited, you would support this bill and use it as an example to the other states. And you would pass this bill in New York, and then you would go to the other states and say, why doesn't your state provide these protections for a woman's right? But in this state, the woman would have an attorney, would have a counselor. It would be supervised by the Department of Health. She would be fully apprised. She'd be fully represented, and she would make her own decision. I respect my colleagues in the Assembly who have differences of opinion. We have differences of opinion all the time. But I do not understand the Assembly members who oppose this. I have respect for Assemblymember Glick and Weinstein and Dee Dee Barrett, but I just don't see the possible rationale. Pass the law that protects women and then convince the other 47 states to do it. It's not that women aren't going to be surrogates, they are. It's just, is it New Jersey, or is it here, or is it California, or is it here? So it makes no sense. It also makes no sense, since we spent months in this room arguing for a woman's right under Roe v. Wade, which said a woman's body, a woman's choice. And we argued about, with many people who said, well, certain women aren't prepared to consent. And certain women should have to consult with their parents first. And they have to notify their parents first. And we said, no, a woman's right governs. In this case, why doesn't a woman's right govern when it is fully informed and fully consulted? I don't understand it. And then the gay panic defense, I said to Andy and Risa yesterday, gay panic defense is a law in the state of New York that says, as a defense in a criminal action, assault, murder, a defense is, I just found out that the person was gay, and I was so emotionally disturbed when I found out that the person was gay, I was not fully responsible for my actions. And that is a legal defense in this state. I mean, think about this in any other context. I found out that he was of Italian-American descent, and I was so out of my mind, disturbed, that I killed him. I found out that she was Jewish, and I found out that she was from Haiti. I mean, it's so disgusting is the only word. And I was talking to my daughters and their friends and explaining this situation. And they're all 23, 24, they're all smart and informed, and they're on social media, and I'm old, so by definition, I don't really know anything because they're young and I'm old. And I explained this situation, and they said, oh, it can't be. You can't be right. That's not the law. And I said, I'm the governor. I'm telling you, that's the law. No, that can't be the law. I said, it is the law, but it's unbelievable. It is incredible. And it just cannot be allowed to exist, not just as a legal defense, but what it says about us and what it says about our values and what we believe, that we would allow that proposition to stand. We don't allow anti-Semitism to stand. We don't allow anti-Muslim sentiment to stand. We don't allow the codification of homophobia, which is what the gay panic defense is. It is the codification of homophobia, and not in New York. I believe the Senate is going to pass these two bills. That's good, and that's a nice thing, but it's also irrelevant unless the Assembly passes the bill. And there is no such thing as a celebration of one house passing a bill, because one house passing a bill means nothing. It takes two to tango. It takes two to pass a bill. So I hope the Senate passes the bill, But we need the Assembly to pass the bill. And we need the Senate to go to their colleagues in the Assembly. They're all of the same party now. It's not like the old days where they could point fingers, and we had a Republican Senate that would point fingers at the Democratic Assembly, and the Democratic Assembly would point fingers at the Republican Senate, right? We played that game for a long time. That game is over. Nobody's fooling anybody. Every bill they've passed, virtually, has been both houses in unison. The Senate and the Assembly talk all the time about how they're unified. Be unified here. Be unified in supporting the LGBTQ community. Be unified in supporting couples who want to bring a child into this world and share their love, but can't for a medical reason. That's what unified progressive Democrats are all about. And do it today. Mr. Andy Cohen, thank you for being here.
Thanks. So happy to be here today. Thank you for having me. I did come up with a couple Housewives taglines for you, Governor.
Oh, for me?
Yes. Okay.
We'll do that later.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
Can I give you one?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Okay. The only thing fuller than my list of accomplishments is my head of hair.
Nice. I like
good,
that.
right?
I like
Okay.
that.
There's a reporter that tweeted me. There's a reporter that tweeted me one that is too good not to say. Josefa Velasquez. I may be from Queens, but in New York, I'm king.
No.
Good. That was hers. That wasn't mine. All right. Thank you for having me today. You've been such a great ally for the LGBTQ community. We couldn't have passed marriage equality without you or Genda. So I know that when you put your mind to something, you get it done, and I appreciate you considering this one. It's been said that raising a child is to forever have your heart go walking around outside your body. And while my journey to parenthood is quite literally in its infancy, it's indeed a magnificent and albeit sometimes terrifying one. Sadly, having a child has not been an option for everyone. Some couples and individuals who badly want children, who want nothing more than to raise a family, simply cannot conceive. When I first came out to my parents in 1988, my mom said two things. The first thing she said was, "I probably would have hated your wife anyway." And she probably would have. The second thing she said is, "I need to mourn the loss of you ever having a child or a family." Because the idea at that point in 1988, it was so unusual, the idea that a gay person could have a family. And, it was incredible. I had always wanted a family, but as a gay man there in 1988, living in St. Louis, this was absolutely not a possibility. I had mourned that loss myself. Fortunately, medical technology has evolved in ways that allow new options for those experiencing infertility, as well as for LGBTQ people looking to form their own families. Unfortunately, and rather shockingly, as we've discussed, New York law has not experienced the same evolution. When I first started to research surrogacy, I was floored, shocked, amazed, gobsmacked to find out that this progressive state that I have been a proud resident of for 30 years, that this is illegal in my home state. It seemed draconian that the idea that if a woman carried a baby for a gay couple in New York, she would be committing a felony in 2019. New York is one of only 3 states in the nation that criminalizes this practice. This forces New Yorkers to who seek to work with surrogates to leave the state. This results in greater legal challenges, added stress, less involvement with the pregnancy, increased costs for surrogates, children, and intended parents. Those were some of the challenges that I faced when I decided to have a child through surrogacy, which was the option for me, the only option for me when I wanted to have a biological child of my own. I worked with organizations that helped me find an egg donor and a surrogate, but because it's illegal here in New York, I went to California. That's where my surrogate was, California. I come to New York from the Midwest so I could be free to live my life, but I have to go to California to have a child. Seems odd. The entire experience of having my son has left me completely in awe of surrogates. My surrogate, she's absolutely incredible. We were partners from the beginning. She viewed this experience as an opportunity to give me the ultimate gift. She gave me life. She gave me my son. With all of the sacrifices that surrogates make, I kept saying to her through the whole thing, I kept saying, how are you going to feel about me being in the delivery room next to you and you handing my child to me? And she said, this is what I'm here for. This is what this is all about. I can't wait to see you holding your child. That is my gift. And I've never experienced such pure-hearted consideration in my life. It moves me today to think of. I will forever be indebted to her for Benjamin. This is my son, and he is here because of, I owe him to the surrogate that I worked with in California to help make him a reality. I can't imagine the government telling this woman that she couldn't be a surrogate, but that's exactly what happens here in New York. Does the government really know better than women what is best for their lives and their body? In 2019, no one should have to forfeit the joy of raising their child, not in an era where modern medicine is performing new miracles every day, and when we've reached a wide consensus that the only prerequisite to forming a family is love. That's it. And that's why we've got to pass the Child Parent Security Act. I'm proud to be working with the Protecting Modern Families Coalition, led by the Family Equality Council, to get this measure passed into law. Practiced safely, ethically, and legally, surrogacy is about hope. That's what the entire thing, if I could put it in one word, it's about hope. And it's about the freedom to form a family. And that's the very thing that was fought for 50 years ago when the LGBTQ community began our pursuit of equal rights. From Seneca Falls to Stonewall to more recent laws enshrining marriage equality and reproductive rights, New York has long been a leader when it comes to advancing the interests of women, children, and families. I hope we can keep this tradition alive by passing the Child Parent Security Act this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very powerful and very well said. Thank you, Andy. Rhys Levine, who is the board member of Resolve. Rhys?
Thank you, Governor. My name is Rhys Levine, and I'm a New York City resident, and I'm speaking today to you on behalf of Resolve, the National Infertility Association, on which I have served on the board of directors since 2010. I also speak to you with the perspective of a former infertility patient with double-digit cycles and medical costs and additional fees in excess of $250,000 with no success. I am deeply, deeply appreciative of Governor Cuomo's leadership, along with Assemblymember Paulin and Senator Hoylman's activism on this issue critical to so many families across New York State. I am here to share with you the story of people suffering from infertility and their relationship with their surrogates, as well as the women serving as gestational surrogates for wannabe parents. Over 7.3 million people in the United States are diagnosed with infertility, including 440,000 New Yorkers. Even today, in 2019, there's still a stigma attached to infertility. It's still perceived as a weakness, it's a shame, it's embarrassing to have a damaged reproductive system, or more insulting, it's the punchline of a joke or a Hollywood spoof. As anyone suffering from infertility can attest, the quest for a positive pregnancy test takes over one's life. Most patients can be treated by non-surgical medical treatment or procedures, but a small number, less than 5%, have issues that require the treatment of the disease by in vitro fertilization. Of these, only a minuscule percentage are unable to carry a baby to term and require either donor eggs or a gestational surrogate or both. For those who do, for women who have tried desperately to carry their own child, who have endured multiple daily injections, repeated internal ultrasounds, invasive and sometimes painful medical treatment and surgeries, and probably a few emotionally and physically debilitating miscarriages, like Sonara Charles Pierre sitting in the front row, who suffered through 8 miscarriages before having her baby through a surrogate in Ohio to have her daughter. The path to reach the diagnosis from the team of medical advisors and physicians that they can't carry their own child is long and painful. For many women, carrying a child is integral to the experience of becoming a mother, having the first experience of nurturing one's child. For people who have tried so hard to become parents, first having to adjust to welcoming in teams of medical professionals into what is traditionally the most private of experiences a couple can have, making a baby, learning that after all of that, they have to give up carrying that child, is comparable to the stress that amputees experience. And on top of the personal invasion, the economic investment is equally burdensome. A woman undergoing fertility treatments may have missed weeks of work and may have incurred hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt before turning to surrogacy. To then learn that in order to utilize the assistance of a surrogate, one has to leave her home, her doctors, often her partner and support system, plus overcome legal barriers to parenthood and incur travel and legal fees, and then miss critical parts of the surrogate's pregnancy, is just emotional and economic abuse. By denying access to treatment to New York's most vulnerable class of patients, those who have already endured so much, we are effectively limiting use of the available technologies to those who can afford the extra cost. And the emotional costs of missing the opportunity of participating in the pregnancy milestones are never recouped. Sitting in the front row is Alexis Sorel, an attorney and expert on gestational surrogacy. Please read her article in the New York Law Journal correcting misinformation on this issue, who almost missed the birth of her children through surrogacy because getting to Pittsburgh on time for a baby's arrival is not the same thing as scheduling any other kind of appointment. In the course of my activism on this issue, I have had the privilege of speaking with many parents who have children through surrogacy and many surrogates themselves. The process of choosing a surrogate and a surrogate choosing a family to partner with is a careful, thoughtful one. Intended parents all tell of welcoming the surrogate into their family, sharing a lifelong bond, sending photos, and sharing family milestones. No intended parent that I've ever met looks at the woman who is helping them have a child as anything other than a miracle worker, an angel, and a gift. I have been so humbled and privileged to meet with and become friends with many of these women across the country who have served as surrogates. Some choose to do it in conformity with their religious beliefs, to do the most good that you can do. Many women who serve as surrogates are from military families, steeped in the culture of service to others. And some women just love being pregnant and view the opportunity of being able to help another family as a gift from which they benefit equally. Surrogates speak in glowing terms of the opportunities presented to them to help families in such unique and intimate ways. Actually, intimacy is the best word I know for describing the relationship between surrogates and the families they partner with. I have to ask, what greater example of choice is there than the choice to use your own body to help another family have their children? What what could be more important than using your body with your own choice to do that kind of service? Helping people in this way, these surrogates all tell me, is as much a reward for themselves as it is to the intended parents. I've been working for the passage of this bill for many years and have seen it undergo many changes. We appreciate the thoughtfulness of legislators who worked through concerns and objections to craft a bill that addresses the varied interests. Thank you to Senator Brad Hoylman and Assemblymember Amy Paulin for their patience and diligence. All of the stakeholders in this legislation have had enormous input in improving the bill to be as thoughtful, creative, and reflective of the many concerns of all parties as humanely and legislatively possible. Under the Child Parent Security Act, for the first time, surrogates will have a Bill of Rights, codifying their rights to independent legal counsel, extended health insurance, patient disclosures, and other protections. Intended parents will know that their parentage is inviolate. Babies born to surrogates will also have protections with their health and parental security protected. It has been an honor and a privilege to represent Resolve and serving in a coalition that includes not just the infertility community, but also the American Society for Reproductive Medicine. Where would we be without the doctors? Many LGBT groups, including family building organizations, the Bar Association, and many others, all led by the Family Equality Council, who pushed us all towards success. I am so proud to be in partnership with the governor who has made passage of this bill a priority for this year. As Governor Cuomo has said, New Yorkers can no longer stand behind 47 states in this country in access to treatment and family building. And under Governor Cuomo's leadership and the diligent efforts of everyone on his team, we will have the legislation that puts New York back into the forefront of family building innovation. As Dad-in-Chief for New York State, Governor Cuomo has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to giving the greatest opportunities to all who decide to become parents. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you very much.
Governor Cuomo, with your ongoing success in helping New Yorkers build their families, we will also be able to extend that wish to the many more in the years to come. We implore the New York State Legislature to pass this critical legislation, and happy Father's Day to my dad, too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Risa. And now we'll turn it over to Hank Greenberg, who is president of the New York State Bar Association. Hank?
Thank you, Governor, for the honor and privilege to join you and the other people who are here today to talk about legislation that the state needs to ban the gay and panic legal defense and legalize gestational surrogacy. Let me thank you as well, Governor, for your tireless leadership on behalf of women and the LGBTQ community. It's more than just tireless, it is singularly successful. In the modern history of New York State, no person is more responsible for making the Empire State the progressive capital of the nation than Andrew Cuomo, and I thank you on behalf of all New Yorkers for that. It's my privilege to serve as the president of the New York State Bar Association. And over our 142-year history, the State Bar has led on issues of profound importance to the legal profession and to the public. And it's that legacy and tradition that brings me here today. The foundation of our state and nation is the constitutional principle, the bedrock principle of our country, equal justice under law. It is a simple yet profound idea that each of us is entitled to fair and equal treatment under law. The legislative proposals that the governor spoke about so eloquently and we are here to discuss this morning, if enacted into law, will make real the promise of equal justice under law. The so-called gay panic defense, for example. The gay panic defense is based on the horrific, noxious concept that LGBTQ lives are worth less than others. That concept is violative of our core values as a people. It is the very antithesis of equality under law, equal justice under law. It's a defense, as the governor said so well, that essentially codifies homophobia, transphobia, unthinkable in New York State. Nevertheless, it continues to be permitted in our courts. That should stop immediately. This defense should be banned from our courts once and for all. On the issue of surrogacy, New York laws are hopelessly out of date. As we heard before, New York is the progressive capital of our nation. Therefore, it is unthinkable that we stand alone or close to alone from 47 other states that have legalized gestational surrogacy. It is supported by the American Bar Association. It is supported by the New York City Bar Association. I am proud to be here today to support it as well. The proposed changes in the current version of the bill reflects advances in medical technology and makes it easier for non-biological parents to establish legal parenthood. The state should not dictate what women may or may not do with their bodies. A legal framework is clearly necessary to permit women to safely become a gestational surrogate if they choose to do so, and that framework must guarantee, as the current proposal does, the availability of legal counsel and appropriate health care protections. As the governor put it aptly and right, we need to be the model for the nation. And the bill that is likely to pass in the Senate today would create the most rigorous, protective set of laws and regulations in the nation. So over the next few days, the legislature has an opportunity, a real chance to make history, to make equal justice under law a living, breathing reality. I urge lawmakers to seize that opportunity by once and for all banning the gay and trans-panic legal defense and legalizing gestational surrogacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. One last comment, and then we'll take questions on this topic. Off-topic questions we'll take after we excuse our special guest. Listening to Risa and Sonara, who we heard from yesterday and brought the crowd to tears, Alexis Sorel is here. We talk about progressive. The opposite of progressive is regressive. They are denying and defying 30 years of medical progress. If I had said to you 30 years ago or 20 years ago, you'll be able to take an egg from a woman and remove it from the body, people would have said, that's impossible, you can't do that. If I said you can then take a sperm from a man and fertilize that egg and that sperm and implant it in the woman, they would say, that's impossible. That is medical progress. And the next step is now gestational surrogacy. And if you can help an infertile couple for whatever reason, with the medical advances we have made, why would you stand in the way? Why would you stand in the way of medical progress, which is exactly what they are doing? And the opposition in the assembly is primarily women. They're hurting women. They are hurting women. And I think Risa spoke to that eloquently. Sonara did yesterday. Alexis has on other occasions. So thank you all very much. The case is very powerful. Again, it's nice that the Senate is passing the bill. It's essential that the Assembly pass the bill. Otherwise, it's a meaningless exercise. Any questions for any of my guests on this topic?
Governor, as you were holding the press conference, Gloria Steinem issued a letter that says, in part, under this bill, women in economic need become commercialized vessels for rent, and the fetuses they carry become the property of others. What would you say to her and other women's organizations that have expressed similar concerns?
First, I'm not talking to you because you did a video mocking me yesterday mercilessly. This is John Campbell, who lives to mock me. He just gets and he does it very effectively, which is what's most irksome about it. But I saw your video. The short point, I saw your video.
You give me plenty of material.
Yeah, that's the problem. My daughter loved your video, by the way. Look, I think it's, let her go talk to 47 other states. Because that's not what this law does in this state. This allows a woman to make an informed consent. And any person who doesn't believe a woman is capable of an informed consent should go join the Trump Supreme Court and overturn Roe v. Wade.
Can I help out with that one?
Please, Rhys.
Gloria Steinem was my hero. When I was growing up, she was absolutely my hero. I wanted to be her. I loved her. I adored her. I was inspired by her. But I read the letter, and I was heartbroken over the letter. First of all, she cites a 1992 report that has been overturned by the current task force. They issued the report in 2017 that reversed the findings of the 1992 task force. It's out of date. It's wrong. She's misstating the facts of the current situation. Second, ASRM standards, the American Society for Reproductive Medicine, the standards for choosing a surrogate, which, by the way, less than 5% of women who apply to be surrogates are actually approved or taken into the program to become surrogates. One of the standards is that they have to be financially stable, that they can't be poor or needy or disenfranchised and dependent upon the money from surrogacy to support themselves. They need to be able to support themselves otherwise without the money that they earn. So it is not the most exploited women, like she cites in that report, that are doing that. Third, this bill provides for enormous consent, awareness, patient education, patient disclosure, patient protections, none of which did she consider in that letter. Frankly, I'm so disappointed in my hero, my heroine, my Shiro, for getting so many facts wrong. And I really hope that she will reread the legislation, especially in light of all the changes that were made to it, and look at the families and the people and the women who choose to become surrogates and listen to them and listen to the voice of women.
Wow, put that in your video, John.
Hey, you
Question?
told me how to speak.
Governor, on the gay and trans panic defenses, have you spoken to the Assembly about why they might be opposed to this in your
We've had conversations, and we have ongoing conversations.
They haven't expressed to you why they're opposed to it, or they haven't brought it up yet?
Look, that's a question for you to ask the individual members, but there's no doubt that they have individual members who are opposed. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here 5 or 6 days before.
Any other on-topic guys?
Yeah, I'll take it on top.
No, you only get one, John.
Well, nobody else wants to. The first time you had a press conference on this topic, you spoke a lot about the Catholic Church's opposition. Are the concerns from the women's organizations harder to overcome here? You said there seems to be most opposition from women in the assembly.
I think you have a number of dynamics of opposition. You no doubt have women's groups or women who are responsive to the argument you just made from Gloria Steinem, which I think was wholly refuted and without facts and without data. And then you have the Catholic Church, which is also against it. And the Catholic Church is a very formidable political adversary, as we know very well. Marriage equality, Roe v. Wade, gender, all of these things were passed against the Catholic Church. But it is, as a political opponent, it is powerful. And the condemnation to hell is significant. No other questions on topic? All right, thank you very much.